Boarding the train this time, I had a much greater sense of discomfort than any of the other times. I knew very little about Churchill before booking the train ticket. Like, I knew a little bit about it. I knew that it was the polar bear capital. I knew that there were a lot of beluga whales there. I knew about the fort, but I don't know. It's so far north to me. It's so foreign to me that it was just such a crazy thing. The train was booked. Lucifer. Lucifer. Yes. Cats, I tell you. Lucifer, come. Come. No, come. You're ruining my entire thing. Lucifer, go get cats. Or do. They're kind of hilarious. I don't even know. Lucifer, you're ruining everything right now. You know that, right? Where was I? I really wanted this video to be like the most like professional sort of style, but that's not gonna happen with Mr. Lucifer kicking around. Oh God, that cat. I shaved and everything, and I'm wearing my nice shirt, and I was like, yeah, you know what? This is the important video. This is the video that's gonna be really cool. God damn it, Lucifer. All right. Anyways, the the train was supposed to board at 10 o'clock a.m. I was a bit off on my my last video, but it was supposed to board at 10 o'clock, and Lucifer, what? Lucifer. Yeah. Ah, fuck. Lucifer, you are such a cat. Oh man, I'm gonna have such a great time recording today. The house is quiet but not Lucifer. The train was supposed to board around 10 o'clock a.m. I was a bit wrong on my previous video, but it was supposed to leave at 10 o'clock a.m. and it was going to be a 50-hour ride to get to Churchill. 50 hours straight up north on the train. There are stops along the way where you can get off, but not really a whole lot. You couldn't really stray too far from the train or risk, missing it. Lucifer, are you a needy little freaking loser right now? I don't know how I'm supposed to get this video done with Lucifer being a cat. Anyways, so it's a 50-hour ride to Lucifer, you're clawing me. Lucifer really wanted to be in the shot, apparently. So anyways, you are such a little wiener head. Anyways. It was supposed to be a 50-hour train ride to get to Churchill from Winnipeg. And to make everything a little bit even more comfortable for me, I only had about $100 left. And to make everything just that much sweeter, I didn't have a hotel booked for Churchill, and I was going to be stuck there for 2 days. And honestly, that's just the kind of stuff that I live for. That kind of sense of discomfort and, unease. Your hair's getting everywhere. And I was just so freaking excited for what was going to happen within these next, I guess 6 days, including the train ride back. And it was so exciting for me. I found myself in a cozy little 4-seated area, and you want out again? I've recorded 9 minutes, and most of it's been me arguing with my cat. Okay, with no further interruptions, hopefully, let's get this story going. I found myself a nice little cozy 4-seated area all by myself. And once the train started going, I introduced myself to the people who were sitting across from me, a German guy named Tony and a Canadian girl named Clara. And from behind me, I could hear another guy sort of making his way through. He sounded like a very well-seasoned traveler. He was talking to all the people down the aisle. And eventually he comes to us and he introduces himself to us, and he was Colin. And he asked me, he said, hey, yeah, you seem pretty chill. If this train really starts to fill up, do you mind if I come and sit with you so that we don't end up cramped together with just total strangers? And I thought, yeah, all right, yeah, you seem like a good enough guy. And we all sort of chatted for a little while, and then we all sort of kept to ourselves again for a little while. And it seemed like it was just going to be another sort of long slog where I wasn't really going to be talking to anybody and getting really close. But the vibe on this train was a whole lot different. The staff were all dressed up really nicely, and normally if I wanted to have some instant noodles or some instant coffee, I'd need to go and help myself to hot water from the reservoir sort of at the back of the cafe car. But I got in trouble for doing it this time, and what's the deal? I've been doing this for all the other train rides, but yeah, the staff they were all nice and dressed up, and they said, no, you have to go and ask the guy behind the counter for hot water now. And I was like, okay. And normally there'd be huge lines, but there wasn't really lines on this one because this one actually had a full service dining area where you'd get a meal, like a nice fresh cooked meal and a dessert for relatively cheap. It was like, $17, which it's pretty expensive, but it is a fresh cooked meal on a train. So that's all right. It took a little while, but eventually, Tony and Clara and Colin and I found ourselves together sitting in the Bubble Dome car area. And we all started chatting, getting a little bit of a background on each other, and that was really nice, kind of, bonding in a little way, I suppose. And that was really pleasant and nice. I thought that was fantastic. Really felt like I was making some friends, and that's something that I'm always striving to do. I like meeting people, and I like getting friends, especially since friends were going to be a very, very valuable thing on the 2-day-long train ride. The first day was a little bit uneventful, as you'd kind of expect. But Colin opened up about being a huge fan of trains, and he told us a lot about the train lines all throughout Canada, and he told us that the trains that they use for the adventure routes and for the Western Canadian routes are trains that they've been using since 1963. They were built in 1963 to sort of combat air travel because they wanted to make these trains like luxury to the extreme to beat out airplanes, and they've just been using the same ones ever since, and that really blew my mind. So after it got dark, I kind of went back to the cafe car and soaked in that 1960s aesthetic just to kind of, really feel it out a little bit more, Sleeping on this train, I think, was a little bit worse than on the other trains that I've been on so far, because that route from Winnipeg to Churchill had been closed for about 5 years, maybe 10 years. I can't quite remember. And it was just reopening this year. So they hadn't really had much of a chance to refurbish the seats on the train. So they were a little bit sunken in. They seemed a little bit, dirty, for lack of a better word. I think they were just stained. And yeah, my seat was lower than the leg rest. So sitting in there was a little bit uncomfortable. And especially when you put it up, which you would do to try and sleep, it wasn't very comfortable. And also, since the seats were so sunken in, the hinge from the leg rest was constantly digging into my butt when I was trying to get myself comfortable to sleep. It was hard to get used to at first, but I got used to it. I got a decent amount of sleep. I woke up by about 5:30. Just some absolutely phenomenal views. And it took me a little while to come to terms with everything. My brain was a little bit foggy from not sleeping too well the night before and everything. And eventually I made my way over to the Bubble Dome car, because there weren't very many people on this train, so there was always space in the dome, whereas in other trains normally the dome is always full, but this one there was always space. So I got my instant coffee and I sat and I was drinking it, and this is around the time that I took my official selfie for the day. And I was getting a little bit greasy, and I don't know, I looked kind of tired, and I think that I'm really feeling myself though, And eventually Clara and Colin come and join me, and we're all sitting around, and I had a deck of cards. Actually, I found it, my official souvenir deck of cards from Via Rail. And we're sitting and chatting and talking and discussing what games we can play, because we hadn't had cell service since basically the day before when we all started talking the last time. We were just out of cell service. No sign of Tony yet, though. And I asked Clara, I said, well, where's Tony? Like, you guys are sitting together, figured you guys would be up at the same time. And she says that he's still asleep last time she saw. And that was really, really impressive, actually. It was like 6 or 7, and yeah, he was still asleep And all the rest of us were like, man, yeah, I couldn't sleep a wink, but he was just conked out. Just totally, just totally sleeping. So anyways, yeah, right around 10 o'clock, Tony finally gets up, and we're all chatting and whatnot, and we're like, man, how did you sleep so freaking well on this train? Like, that's just impressive. And he thought nothing of it. Just, I don't know, just I fell asleep and I slept, and that's all there was to it. And impressive stuff, really impressive stuff. And then something incredible happens. We're all sitting there, and all of a sudden, all of our phones start buzzing and vibrating, like we're getting messages, which was the first time we've gotten messages for, like the past 12 hours, because none of us had service for all that time. And looking out over the tree line, there's a cell tower. And oh man, we were all so excited. We're sitting there, and this is probably gonna be one of the last times we're gonna be able to contact anybody from the outside world for the next day. So we're all messaging and whatnot, and we actually stop, and there's this little town there, in the middle of nowhere. I mean, there were still roads and whatnot, and there were people, but little tiny sign posted up to a tower says Waboden, which I'm pretty sure is the name of the town. Probably butchering the name as well, but whatever. And we all sat there, and we're just basking in the delight of having service, just basking in the cell tower. Bunch of phone junkies, I guess. But come on, it's gonna be the last time we're gonna be able to talk to anybody, other than people on the train for the next couple days, maybe. Well, there's going to be at least one more stop way down the line before all that, but this was just exciting stuff for us. Come on, give us a break. And eventually, we hear that call, all aboard, and well, we all got on board, and that was it. We were off, continuing north. I had my cards, and I was really insistent on wanting to play Crazy Eights, but they all kind of laughed at me and said, no, we're not playing Crazy Eights. Are you kidding? And we started playing Asshole instead. One schoolyard game to another. And eventually, Clara decided to teach us how to play euchre, which none of us had ever really played before. So it took us a little while to learn, but we got the hang of it. We had all day to practice, so we started just playing euchre. We were all sort of taking note of the changing in the landscape. We were pointing out things like off in the distance there was a plateau at some point, and I was trying to take as many pictures as I could. And as it changed from this sort of nice green flat prairie look to these sort of wooded wetland look of the farther north we went, that's kind of what it more looked like. There was a lot more dense trees, and there was a lot of wetlands, a lot of little ponds and whatnot. And eventually it just started getting really, really, really thick. It was really entertaining, just kind of, passively doing something like playing cards and then looking outside and being like, wow, where the heck are we? And then we made a stop in Thompson, Manitoba. This was going to be the last stop with roads. This is making it a very important stop. So the train had to, gear up a little bit more so we can make it to Churchill and back without, needing to, because you can't gear up in Churchill because they don't have too many supplies either. So the train we were supposed to have a 5-hour stop there so the train could take a break and they could load everything on and get rid of all the garbage. But since we were running late, of course, the train stopped for only 1 hour. And, it was nice. We got off, and some of the guys took a little walk around the block. I just kind of sat around and, enjoyed myself. And once we all got back on the train in Thompson, continuing on north, we started seeing this absolutely beautiful sunset. We were just blown away by it. Something about this particular sunset was just really, really, really just getting us in the right spots. And we made our way up to some town. I can't remember what it was called. I probably won't be able to find it on a map. But it was this little tiny town. And as I mentioned, they didn't have any roads. There were no roads getting there. So it was kind of an event for them. When the train came through, all the kids came out with their dogs and their families, and they all were coming and talking to all the visitors. But the four of us had our minds on the sunset. Well, Colin and I did, at least. Colin and I were trying to take so many pictures, and eventually I found the shot that I wanted, and I took it. And the feeling of getting this shot just, it was incredible. This was the shot that I wanted to take. This was one of the best photographs I've taken in my entire life. Second to another one, but that's for another story. But this nice, gorgeous pink sky with the train and the honeysuckles, I love this photograph. It really, really was impressive to me. The entire trip, Churchill could have been a flop and I would have had to sleep outside or whatever. I would have been happy just with this picture, I think so, at least. I'd like to think so. And then, after we got back on the train, still admiring the sunset off in the distance, we decided to go and treat ourselves to one of the nice dinner meals at the back of the train. Because why not? This is only one of the few times we're going to be able to experience this, so we may as well experience it. So we went, and we had to wait in line a little while, we had to take a number or whatever, but we got our table, and we sat down. And just thinking about this is the way that train travel was intended to be in the 60s. That was just, it blew my mind, and I really enjoyed it. And I had a nice, lovely beer, and I had the food. It was really impressive to me because, I'd been eating nothing but trail mix and instant noodles for the past few days, every now and again getting something else when I stopped. But this was the first time I actually ate something made by the train chef, and it was just so impressive to me. I was so happy with it, and we got a little dessert. I think it was a brownie, and yeah, I really enjoyed it, and we all sort of tried taking turns taking selfies of the group, and I think mine turned out the worst, but it's just really a good way to try and remember these guys, because it was really great. And we sat around playing cards until the end of the night, and we all went to bed. And this day, I just really felt happy, and really felt like I made some friends, I think that's enough talking for this video. Sorry, I don't know how much of the stuff, but my cat was being a bit of a pain in the butt. I wanted this video to be, I wanted to try really hard on this video, but my cat didn't want to make it easy for me. So, thank you for watching, and yeah, if you made it this far, thanks. And well, I appreciate everybody who's been following along and supporting this. Yeah, okay, well, thanks.